Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the training program on mastering cyber defense with Axiom's XDR 360. Yeah, we are covering session 7 today, which is also the last session, and the focus is on round the clock managed detection and response. Even though when we scheduled this program, I called it more managed detection and response. You'll see we are going to more talk about SOC today, and I'll share why we are going to talk about SOC and not MDR. And they are related, as you know, you hear about these terms and so on. Yeah, I have Omanath with me here. So if you have any questions, you can put in Q&A during the presentation, and we will try to address those questions. So let's get into this session. Even before we get to the SOC, we are going to cover what is the difference between SOC and NOC, right? That's a very fundamental. And then we are going to talk about the SOC deployment models and what does a SOC do and what does a SOC do when it is not detecting threats, right? Because detecting threats is one of the main goals, and remediating, responding to threats, is the role of SOC. So let's first look at the difference between SOC and NOC. So you can call them as people who work on SOC as guardians of security, and NOC the network performance. So SOC's role is focus on monitoring and detecting cyber threats, and responding to those threats to protect organizational data and systems. Like it's more about protection, right? And the NOC, Network Operations Center, is more about the network performance, minimizing downtimes, and detecting network issues before they happen. So, so they have two distinct roles. Like SOC again is about continuously monitoring and defense against cyber threats, while the NOC is more about network performance and minimizing downtime, right? And historically, they had a, as you like, a vital partnership. And we know, like in uh, particularly in bigger organizations, even though that was the goal that SOC and NOC worked together, but these were kind of two very different things, like very different skill sets and so on, right? But we know, like we had talked about SASE, but Secure Access Services Edge. Like the basic premise of SASE was now bringing security and networking together, like into a single offering, right? And why the whole motivation was that not only consolidating the stack and lowering the cost, simplifying the management, but the more importantly, it was about again security, right? Because a lot of the threats come through the network, and if network is blind to the security and security is blind to the network, there will be blind spots there. So given that now networking and security coming together and delivered as a SaaS service with SASE, it makes sense also to collapse the SOC and NOC together, just like the benefits of SASE, like in terms of SASE is again about proactive protection or prevention of threats. Like when you encrypt data, you have a VPN, you have a firewall, you are in line, like you're blocking threats even before they can happen. Or you get a phishing URL, you click on that, you don't even get to that website. Like SASE is doing proactive threat prevention, right? So the idea is now similarly when the SOC and NOC comes together, you can do a better job in not only threat prevention but also responding to the threats. And you see already that is happening. Why we need to collapse that, and I think if some of you are using already Axiom servers. you see all the time. Like there is no distinction between network and security. Like if your cyber gateway is down or its LAN is not connected, you get an alert, you get an email. Like whenever there's a network connectivity issue, if there's a security incident, like a website getting blocked, again, the alerts are getting generated. Like, so you already see when you are using SASE, there's no distinction between network and security. And when the network issues happen, user performance gets affected. Like again, the goal of the NOC is to proactively address those issues. So this is in a way is big. Like, I mean, when you probably traditionally heard about SOC more focused on security, but a modern SOC, and when you collapse them, you need to use one word, right? And which one you pick, like we picked SOC. Like, I mean, security is always at the top of the minds of not only like the IT teams, but also the company's board of directors and all that. Like it's just becoming more and more important. So when we collapse them together, we call it Security Operations Center, like the next generation Security Operations Center. Okay, so this difference is important between these. And then even when you go to SOC, so we will spend a lot of time just kind of straightening these terms because there's a lot of confusion. Like, and now let's double click on SOC, assuming we already collapsed NOC and SOC into SOC. Let's double click on SOC and what its relationship to MDR and so on. So when it comes to SOC, there are three deployment models. Like the internal SOCs are when you have a SOC team. So we'll go over the breakdown of the SOC team. Like internal SOCs are not easy or they are not cheap. Like you need to hire the right people, the teams, the skill sets. But some bigger organizations will have an internal SOC. Like maybe a lot of the big banks and even the large MSPs. Sometimes they call them MSSPs, managed security service providers. The larger ones, they will have internal SOCs. Like, of course, the SMBs are outsourcing SOC, so it will appear like an outsourced SOC to SMBs, but will appear as internal to the MSP. And then virtual SOCs is not like a internal SOC. There's a physical room. There are a team of SOC like 24/7, 365, monitoring for threats and so on. Virtual SOCs are more like a distributor. I mean, you may not even have full-time employees. They may be the part-time or contracted employees distributed, like they may be distributed globally, but they are not all sitting in a single room, like in a single physical room. Like our view of a SOC or NOC is like a lot of those screens, like more like a operation center, like. But the virtual SOCs are more distributed. They are not like internal SOCs. Outsourced SOCs is where you outsource to a third party, like who has the expertise in security monitoring and response. So as I said, if you are operating an internal SOC, SMBs are outsourcing their SOC to you in a way because the SMB still see threats and somebody needs to detect those threats and respond and remediate those threats. Like then you as MSSP or MSP are doing that. Like, but you can also outsource your SOC. Like if you will go over like what it takes to build a SOC, and maybe not all the details, but more on the team structure and so on, you will get an idea like how complex it can be. Like, and you can outsource SOC to a third party. So this is really no single answer. So you'll see combination of all these different options. And then I just put in outsourced SOC is more like MDR, but why I'm using SOC is a MDR is limited, like it came from like EDR, like then managed EDR, more focused on the endpoints. Like the SOC is more broader, like it's not only just the threat detection and remediation, it also covers like what security tools the organization should be using, the compliance and so on. So it has a much broader role than MDR. Like, but outsourced SOC may appear like a MDR, like because if as a MSP, you're outsourcing it to a third party like Axiom, and then it will also you don't need a separate MDR. Like now you have the SOC, which is in a way is a superset of MDR, is already detecting and responding to threats there. Again, our trusty overall architecture, and you can see now with the SOC, which also includes the NOC capability. I mean, this view of SASE is networking and security coming together. Like, so again, you need to monitor the hybrid work and detect and respond to all the security threats in the hybrid work. But at the same time, you need to monitor network performance and try to minimize downtimes. That means you on the left side, you need to monitor what is happening on the endpoints from network performance point of view, like is the VPN is affecting throughputs, for example, and so on. And with the, for example, cyber gateways at the locations, again, the users which are at a location, you will be not only detecting and responding to threats there, but also the network performance and network optimization with SD-WAN, as you have seen, like the failovers, like even one ISP fails, you need to make sure it failed over to the second MSP. So there is no downtime, minimizing downtime. Like, so that is the NOC component. And you don't stop there. On the right side, you now need to protect your hybrid infrastructure. Like you have workloads in the public cloud, in the data center, a lot of the SaaS. You already know some of the tools you use to protect the hybrid infrastructure. And you need to monitor that as well. Like threats are not only on the left side, but threats will be somebody got into your data center, lateral movement. Somebody was able to, you had the, for Azure, your SSH open, someone was able to brute force into that. Like, so the threats will be happening on the hybrid infrastructure side as well. And both like the threats and the network performance, like you cannot just focus on the left side. Maybe like in your data center, what is the ISP there? Like, I mean, their throughputs, like their packet loss, like that may impact the performance and so on. Again, we can say next generation SOC, let's use that word, which is your SOC and NOC combined and MDR built into that. That needs to cover this architecture, this scenario, like the protecting and optimizing network performance for hybrid work and the hybrid infrastructure. Yeah, at the core is we talked about XDR, like so SOC will leverage XDR 360. This is our next generation SOC will leverage the XDR 360 because XDR 360 is already monitoring the hybrid work and hybrid infrastructure, as you can see here. Like you have the data coming from all different directions into there. So this is XDR 360. And today, this was always a small part over here, the SOC, like, because the idea with XDR 360 is you use the modern machine learning and AI to autonomously detect and respond to threats as much as possible. And human intervention, we know we are not there at full self-driving, like we still need a person with the hands on the wheel, like that's our SOC, but we want to minimize that, like, but we still need a SOC, even though XDR may respond to 70, 80, 90% or 95% over time, but we need a human in the loop when the autonomous threat response will not be able to take care of the threats. And same with the network performance, because I'm now monitoring like if you have seen like Axiom's, for example, SASE dashboard, it's not about security threats, but also like how much users are uploading, downloading, their network performance as well. Like if with the cyber gateways, you can go there and see all the network performance between sites, throughputs, going to the internet throughputs. So all that is XDR 360 is monitoring that, not only security threats, but also network. But we are going to double click on the SOC today because it has been in this loop over here. And let's see like what let's first look at SOC, and then we are going to bring together XDR 360 and SOC, our next generation SOC. We are going to look at that. So SOC, even though we had a small, but it has a whole, let's call them the guardians of cybersecurity. This is again a view of a traditional SOC, but now we are also bringing in network engineers and network performance optimization and all those things in there. So this is the type of team you need to build. Like you need tier one analysts. They are the first responders, right? So when the alert comes in, they look at it. So in our view of the things, assuming XDR 360 did not autonomously respond, then tier one analysts get that alert, and they need to look at it and do triage and see if it is a real threat. Like, and they are not going to pass on to incident responders until they think it is a real threat. Like they will filter out some of these false positives and so on. So they are the first responders in a way. Like tier two are more incident responders. Like when the alert comes, now tier one thinks it's a real threat. They are going to do more deeper analysis. Like they can look at the threat intelligence sources, and so they are doing this work manually. Like because over here, XDR 360 was doing this autonomously. Like it was taking into threat intel and all that. But now XDR 360 said, okay, this alert, I don't know how to respond to that. Human, you take care of it. Like so they need to do pretty much the same thing XDR 360 was doing. Like then you need subject matter experts. Like and we will see when we are saying when a SOC is not detecting and responding to threats, what it is doing. So most of these people may not have, like, threats are not coming all the time. Like they may have time. So the type of things they are going to do is more like a threat intelligence analysis or vulnerability scan, proactively detecting if there are any weaknesses in the security posture and so on. So they may have their specialty, like some may be more threat intelligence, as I said, some may be on the network and network security. With the next generation SOC, you will also need network engineers here, like they will be subject matter experts, like when there is a network issue, like some issue, maybe a deeper issue, like a traffic on a VLAN, like or some devices not getting a IP address, DSCP is not working. Like now, these guys, tier one, tier two, don't know how to handle those type of things, but you have a subject matter expert that will be able to do that. And then the SOC manager is more need project management skills, and they also need to be able to train everyone on incident response and so on. So this is the structure of a SOC team. Like if you ever want to build an internal SOC, you get an idea what type of skill sets you will need. Later, we will go through a document that lists exactly like what, if you are hiring a tier one analyst, what type of skill sets you should be looking at and so on, right? But before we go there, let's bring everything together. Like we have seen this XDR 360, and then the SOC was over here, how it is going to look like. I am just putting these things together now. You can visually see, like our goal is for the XDR 360 to do most of the heavy lifting to respond to as many incidents as possible, remediate threats, but at the same time, it will not be able to respond to all the incidents. Like in that case, the alerts will come to tier one analysts, like and then we already discussed the process from here onwards. Like, but the idea is again at the end from the SOC there is going to be a response coming in and doing remediation of the is security incident. Like not this is the automated path. In this case, SOC even doesn't see that. Oh, like SOC sees that. Like there was a alert, then XDR 360 took that action. Some of the examples we have seen earlier, like you download a malicious file or you click on a phishing link, it automatically blocks that, and you see that. Like okay, yeah, there was some not really incident, but somebody tried to either download a malicious file or go to a website, malicious website, and XDR 360 already blocked it. Like you see it, but you don't need to take any action. Like the SOC doesn't need to do much other than it is already logged for compliance purpose and so on. Okay, for this one, we can go into a little bit more details. Yeah, so this document is there. This has all the details about the SOC, like what SOC's uh, uh, roles and responsibilities. So this is the place where I was saying, like you need a tier 1 analyst, alert investigator, tier 2 incident responder, and tier 3 subject matter experts, and tier 4 or more the SOC manager and commander. And you also need security and network engineers, right? Subject matter experts, like as we discussed. So I think this is for you to review, but you can see like roughly what their role is. Like tier 1 is more just monitoring alerts and prioritizing, like if it's a real threat or not. Then the tier 2 uh, incident responders, they do deeper analysis, like I try to find the threat actor with the threat intelligence correlations and all that. Like and the subject matter experts go even deeper. They proactively try to hunt for threats, and also like both like they have to be like a blue team and red team. They need to do the vulnerability scans, find weaknesses in their own environment, have a plan to fix those, but also try to maybe go to the like these cyber threats, news outlets. I mean, they need to be aware of what is going on in the world, like when it comes to cybersecurity. Like proactively, they may need to go and hunt for threats. Like there's some new type of the threat actor out there. They need to then kind of analyze if their environment has been penetrated or not in there. And some of the other things, yeah, again, we talked about the next generation SOC and other things. Uh, I think some of the, yeah, uh, maybe earlier when I was saying the skill sets. And I think we already talked about when a SOC is not responding to threats, I mean, they are not just sitting idle doing nothing. Like, so they have to be proactively also, maybe some new threats are appearing and maybe new application, like we can give like a lot of use of AI, like and what type of tools you need to defend against the AI threats, for example. So this is more like a proactive, like, so this will be the role of the SOC when it's not responding to the threats, like, and they need to find the right tools and come up with the plans how they are going to protect their users, their SMB customer users, when, for example, they are using AI and so on. Now let's go into the console and have so yeah, we heard about these different SOC models. Like if, for example, you are using Axiom Service, we pretty much support all the different models. Like, and you can see some of the things over here. For example, I can do integration with my PSA. Like if I want tickets to go to my PSA and so on, you can configure that. And you can also configure alerts, like where the different type of alerts should be going. And I think there's a document, maybe the screenshots and all that. You can select different type of threats, like where they need to go. They need to go to PSA, or you should be getting an email for these different type of threats and so on. So this is more like when you are operating your SOC, or maybe you are using another third-party SOC, not Axiom SOC, and you want these alerts to go there, like, and so on. Then you can configure it this way. And then we can also look at if you are using, for example, some of you have your own SOC. I don't know, you may be leveraging Splunk or any of these SIEM over here. Like you need a SIEM, like the first session was about security incident and event management, you need that, like where all the alerts are coming. So that's what SOC leverages is seen like to do their job. But if you are operating your own SOC, you can configure Axiom to get all these different type of alerts where they should be going. Like you can configure that. In that case, you are not leveraging Axiom SOC or MDR, but it's either your internal SOC, maybe you are managing Splunk yourself and want all the alerts to come there, or it is a third party SOC that you are using. So this is the internal SOC model where you have the SOC, but you can get all the alerts and so on from Axiom. You can configure it that way. And if it's a outsourced SOC, but there can be a model where it is like a co-managed. And we also have, I think under XDR 360, you might have seen this incident respond. Like this is available where all the okay, Axiom is going to filter all the alerts, but beyond a certain level, we will alert you that this incident is happening, and then you can go there. Like you can, for example, assign these alert. I mean, same like this can be used as a SOC tool, like set its status and so on, and maybe close it. It was a false alarm with whatever that information. Like so this tool is available. Like in cases where you outsource everything to Axiom, you don't even need to. Of course, we use all these tools in our backends, but we are going to detect and respond to threats. Like, of course, when doing remediation, a lot of the times we need to work with the MSPs and so on because you have the access to the endpoints, the customer network, and all that. So these different models with Axiom, we support those. And the difference compared to traditional SOCs is you see the difference. One is NOC is built into that, and now it's not about just the endpoint, just like your network, your cloud, like basically hybrid work and hybrid infrastructure. That's not the traditional world. Like traditional world was all in the office and on-prem. Like so, this is what this next generation SOC is built for.